Nicola, who has a doctorate in comics and edited this amazing book that Asian Woman, which I really recommend. So just if you want to have a good overview about British comics, women's involvement, and there's a lot more than what you would think. As well as Billy Me and You, which was amazing, is an amazing graphic novel. We're going to kind of talk to you about their work and how to be involved in the community, and as well if you have any questions you have towards the end, as well as they're selling the works in the other room too. So, hi, Betty.
Okay, so Rachel, was that? Has she just said all that you were going to say? That is cool. You've kind of done it. So that's your slide, but you're going to talk in depth a little bit later.
Yeah, what are your books about?
Whatever you our plan is, we're going to, brief introduction we've had, I'm going to talk a little bit about LD Comics first, and then a bit about my background, and then hand over to Rachel, and we're going to reflect on our, how LD Comics has informed our practice and why it's come about. Hi, come on in, we're just getting started. So that's Rachel. First, you can speak.
Yeah,
I need to be told. Yeah, so I'll just say really I'm not sure how far back to go. Just say no. Okay, so yes, 2 graphic novels. I used to do comics in the 20s, and then The Inflatable Woman came out in 2015. I came back into comics in 2012. This one came out in 2018. That's perfect, thanks Rachel. And this is me, and as Laura said, Billy Me and You is my graphic memoir in 2011. The Inky Woman is the first illustrated history of British women's cartoons and comics, and that one on the right is, I put it there, it's the academic one, so it costs so much money and it's like really heavy, but if you want to copy, yep, do it. So that's my PhD. So LD Comics is, actually, can we turn the lights down, do you think? Just to make it a bit clearer. And I might have to stand up while I'm... Oh, that's good. Thank you. So, established in 2009 as Ladies Do Comics with Sarah Lightman, who was floating around the hall earlier. We were talking a little bit about why she's here today, but why? So Sarah and I met in 2009. There were these talks in London called the Graphic Novel, and we kept turning up at them, and Sarah was always late, and I'd be going, and we were talking in the coffee breaks, and got to know each other, and became friends that way, and realised we were both starting postgraduate work into autobiographical comics works, and gender was an interest, and we both had an interest in fine art background, so our references were fine art rather than comics. And so Sarah had been going to a reading club about comics, but it was very traditional comics or mainstream, and we were saying, oh, wouldn't it be great to have a space to talk about comics that was more tea and coffee and a more welcoming space, maybe not a pub, but sometimes they can be quite hostile to women, they're traditionally male spaces. So we were thinking along that. So we set up in a space in Off Brick Lane in 2009, and a few of our friends came to the first one, and it just took off. So we were very clear it needed to be in central London, fairly central, it needed to be free to attend, and it needed to have a welcoming atmosphere. So we wanted it to be us as leading it as women, but everyone was welcome. So the name was a bit off-putting. I think some of the earlier ones, some of the stalwarts of the comics community came and went, I'm a man, is it okay for me to come? And we were thinking, oh, this is interesting, because quite often women go into male spaces and feel a little bit, this is not my kind of person. So anyway, those were 10 years ago. So let's jump up to now. We started with these monthly events that were physical in a this sort of space, that feel. And then, and that was going till lockdown happened, and we had satellites in Leeds and Bristol and other places, but Leeds and Bristol were the main ones. And then we went online for the pandemic, and actually it's been really great because it's meant that we can invite global guests. Every month we invite someone from around the world, 3 guests we invite to talk about their work. So if you haven't been to one of these events, please do sign up to our website, get our newsletter, and come along and see how they roll, because they're really nice, and you don't have to pay, but we ask for donations. So it's very democratic, and by having no one paid, then it gives us the possibility to invite very established authors that we might normally have to pay several £100s to do. We started the awards in 2018. Again, that was Sarah's really an idea she had, and we went with it, and we got some Arts Council funding, and it's a women-only awards. And our table, please come and chat to us later, is all the entries are submitted, and when we do a zine fair, we display them on a table. So everyone is a winner. So we're about promoting and platforming new voices by women, self-identifying women and non-binary. So from that part of the festival, this was a festival in the bottom right corner, and part of that was a properly displayed. So it's an exhibition, but all the zines, printed zines, fit into a small suitcase. So this idea is, again, it's low cost, it's democratic, and we can take it around. And then that's what the festival looked like. And it wasn't a festival with stalls like this type of festival. We were just, we had critical review sessions, so people could book an hour and talk about their work with one of the graphic novelists that we had. And we expanded that to our mentoring scheme, which is online mentoring, one-to-one, and you book a series of 4 sessions over, and then work with that published author usually, or from our bank. So that's been really successful. And then the annual festival, the last 2 years we've had it online. It started because of the work online. Also, we ran some workshops, and finally we had a residency and an online residency. So what are we doing now? Because the past 2 years we've had more of an online presence, and Kirsty here is we've got a partnership with Sussex University, and Kirsty's doing an MA at Sussex, and part of her MA dissertation or work is to write about how LDC is functioning as an organisation. We're a community interest company, which means we're a charitable organisation, and so it's wonderful because she's been helping us doing work for us. So in that she's been tidying up our website, and as part of that we're now compiling a directory of everyone who's ever spoken at LDC, as Nora said. Oh my God, but there must be hundreds! And it's not women only who are our guests, it's also men from around the world. And so there's a platform that you click on them and it links to their website. So it's a win-win for us, because we're seen as platforming new voices in comics, and also for you if you've spoken. And then our presentations are now archived on our YouTube channel. So again, if you're interested in finding out what's out there, do visit and have a look. And then of course the really exciting for me personally is this new project, which is funded by the British Council of International Collaboration, and this is Reveal, and it's looking at women's comics, East Africa, UK. So it's calling for entries. It's a competition based. There's 9 awards to submit, and we're inviting awards. I'm working in partnership with Stanley Arts, who's based in Nairobi, Kenya, and it's calling women artists, self-identifying again, women artists from Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania and Kenya, and calling women artists in the UK who have family heritage in that region of Africa. So again, self-identifying, and so it could be your great-great-great-grandparents, whatever. It's if you have a connection, or if you know any comics artists who are women and have that, please get them to enter. And so it's about, for me, it's interesting because it's about looking at how people travel around the globe. And I think that comics is a great vehicle to talk about these stories and identity and so on. So do have a look if you could, and the deadline's next Friday. So that's one big project. And the festival this year will take place at the Cartoon Museum in London on the 26th of September. So please put that date in your diary and come and see. We'll be celebrating the field. And finally, we're archiving this, we're piloting this summer residencies in Norfolk. So again, if you follow, have a seat, there's one at the front, you're welcome. We're piloting some residencies, so do keep in touch with us, follow our online newsletter, and always email myself or Rachel if you want to find out more or to express interest. But this is small groups, so it's an idea of regeneration if you're working on something. It's not about tutoring, it's more about bringing people together and having some kind of critical reflection. So that's what, in a lovely space, with funny examples. So, LD Comics, who are we? So currently this is our team. It's founded by myself and Sarah Lightman, but there's Rachel, before she became a surfer. There's Emma Burley, who, so all of us are creators. We're all identified as women and we're all published. And I think that is a key bit, and we're quite similar in our thoughts and our values, but yet have differences within that. And we're good friends now. We've been together for a while. So I just wanted to briefly, I'm doing all right for time, a bit of backstory, because I wonder how these things work, just like, you know, this Zine festival here. Where do the people who make these things happen, where does it come from? And I think you can all reflect on your own experiences and think of your own transferable skills. So I was working as a freelance self-taught illustrator for about 10 years, and then became interested in comics, and signed up to an MA to work on my graphic memoir. But during that time, I also wasn't making, as a freelance illustrator, very much money. I wasn't getting to the next stage. And so John Plowman is an artist, my husband, and we set up a visual arts organisation that became a charity in Lincolnshire, in the rural. There was a lot of public money that time to go into regenerate rural areas. And so we ran a project that brought quite innovative contemporary art into this rural spaces, which really weren't familiar with this kind of, it's quite an urban sensibility. And that was really good fun, and I learned a lot about project management. So my role in that was project manager, and I got to that stage because I'd been a freelance illustrator. And so although I wasn't making a huge amount of money, I knew how to do an invoice, I knew how to chase money, I knew how to organise my time, I knew that you have to meet deadlines or you don't get your work. So those kind of organisational skills, basically, that's project management, isn't it? So I thought, how hard can it be? So then I just wanted to show that because it's sort of, I wouldn't have known I was a project manager, but as soon as, you kind of, you're a manager, yeah, I'm that material. And then also I think when I said, then it's very easy to say, then I had my graphic memoir published, but it wasn't just like I went to a publisher and they said, sure, here's a check. It's like, it just isn't like that, and it's probably less so now, maybe for Rachel. So I did my MA and I was working on this thing, and then it just changed direction. But meanwhile, nothing to do with the MA, our daughter was 12 years old, and I was telling her about comics and how Jackie I really enjoyed, because in the 70s it had this and then we went, why don't we do a zine? And so we did Licorice, and we had fun doing it. So she had a few pages that I delegated to her, kids page, and jokes and that. And in it, I slipped 6 pages or something, each issue of my graphic memoir, and it squashed it really quietly at the back. And then we had loads printed. Shall I tell them that bit? We went to one of these zine fairs at the ICA in about 2009. We went down, we travelled on the train down from I got 500 printed, the first copy. So it wasn't really a zine, so I got a copy printed. And it's like, we're on the train going, God, do you think we'll sell 100? Do you think we'll just sell out? And it's like, wouldn't it be awful if we only sell one? Or none? And obviously, we sold two, one to the organiser, who felt sorry, and one to the organiser's mother or something like that, and it was like, and we were squashed, and luckily it was next to Sean as a party, who was so nice, but like, it was really hot like this, and we were squashed thinking, fucking hell, what's this? This is supposed to be like, oh, you know, anyway, but I'm just telling you the process isn't like, you know, it's not easy, but you have to do it. But actually, oh yeah, then licorice, then I gave them out to everyone that, you know, people like that in the community, here have one of this, and they go, ah! They put it on their pile, and then 6 months later, I got an email from Corinne Perlman, who's at Myriad Editions, saying, oh, hi Nicola, are you coming for a tour? We'd like to look at your talk about publishing work. And I'm like, yeah, this is it, guys, and, you know, like, we'll probably buy a new car when I get back, you know, the deal, and it's like, well, don't give up the day job. It's the first, like, they offer me, you know, Prosecco and Chris, and I'm like, yes, I've arrived, I'm an author, and that's like, the first thing, don't give up the day job. We give you a £1,000 royalty, and I'm like, and I came back and I was all diva-ing, I was like, oh, that's not, I think I could get, or I could go to Cape, and my part of the job was like, just do it, you know, you've never been published, just make this, and thank God I did, because Corinne Perlman, anyone who's met her, she is like, what you don't get in money, you get in complete attention and stroking, and she completely edited all the work, brilliant job. And it got a lot of media coverage, and Corinne's in the background saying, I haven't been quite negative, I don't want to put myself down, but it's like, I'm saying, God, Corinne, I've been on world radio, 40 million listeners. What a shame it doesn't translate into sales. Like, he always takes me down, like, okay, get real, keep grounded. But it was a fun ride. And then I got a detour into academia because of the gender thing, so I managed to get full funding. I wouldn't have done it otherwise. And the Inking Woman, again with Myriad, was what came out of that for a public reading audience. And then that's my academic book. So that's been, and again, that process of working through postgraduate academia was really good for critical thinking, for reflecting everything I do, why are we doing it? So, you know, when we have our LDC meetings, it all feeds back into this, all the stuff I learned about feminist theory, about the importance of friendship and working together, because one of the things is why work alone when you can work together, and it's something that again and again in the feminist activism that I read about, it's just always there, is friendship groups that do things together, because why be isolated and lonely and have all work? So when we ran our first festival, we divvied out the jobs and we got paid $50,000. And at the end of it felt like, oh, it feels like we didn't do anything, because we all did our own little bit. But if one person does it all, you just feel wiped out. So I think you probably see that with this festival. And you know, like Nora, you were saying earlier, for this festival, they were really nervous last night, will anyone come? Of course, and it doesn't matter if no one comes, because you've got each other, so you're doing what you're supposed to do. And this is, I'm going back now, because I've got, at the moment I'm working again with Sally, my daughter, but the problem is she's now being trained up at arts, but she's so specific and particular, so everything I do, she goes, not good enough, not good enough, it's really hard, we'll never get it finished. So that's great. Rachel, over to you. Oh, okay.
I was getting quite confident. Enjoying hearing what you're saying. Can you talk about your experience first? You're going to get up there. It's good to get across.
So, no,
right. Okay, that's good, thank you. So, I'd worked in comics for a comic called Deadline when I was about 23, 24. I'd left college and I was kind of, I don't know what I want to do now. And there was a competition in Manchester in the Listings magazine for a comic artist, and I entered it. I think I might have entered it because I'd run out of money to put in the slot machine to make the TV work. So, okay, I'll do a comic. And I won the competition. But they said, oh, the good news is you've gone, but the bad news is we don't pay. Yes. So I worked with them for 2 years for nothing, and I did scripts every 2 weeks, just little thing. But I bombed all the night, and I saw this comic Deadline. I didn't realise it was a bit of a cult comic. We sent them photocopies, and then they called me and said, would you like to work for us? So that was just, I was so lucky. It was just every month that I could do what I wanted with 4 or 5 pages. And that carried on for a few years, and then Frank, the editor, then said, yeah, I'm not going to use you anymore, I'm going to use somebody else. They went downhill after a year, so they lost me. They've been going about 7 years, there's loads of great comic artists that came out of it. But I sort of, rather than trying to find other comics, I didn't really know where to turn. I was like, I'm not sure. There was no internet, how do you find out? So I slipped into illustration, then I had my daughter, and then it was, oh, now you need to get sensible, we haven't got enough money with my partner. So I went and trained as a teacher, and ended up teaching for about 10 years, and slipped into that sort of groove of, oh, I'm just exhausted, it was all about helping people's creativity, and everybody was to be a familiar story, and I couldn't see how to make any changes in my life. And then I got away to school, I got breast cancer, and I remember I was at the hospital talking to the doctors, and I was like, oh, okay, they're like, yeah, we're going to have to do treatments and surgeries and chemotherapy and radiotherapy. And I was like, oh, okay, I better go and tell work and see if I can arrange some time off. And they were like, no, you don't understand, you're not going to work at all for the next year, you need to be. And I was kind of like, I felt like the sun had come out, and I was like, how, this is weird, why am I feeling so happy at the same time? It's a big scary thing, happening. So I went through quite a sort of big experience that people will identify with if you had sort of scary hospital experiences. And also got quite stressed and a bit delusional, and I started internet dating as well after having a mastectomy, and then decided I'd fall in love with this guy as well, and then it became clear that he was just being nice and didn't feel the same way. I was devastated, kind of fell apart, went to Haven, which had just closed under the pandemic. It was the most amazing organisation that offered you 10 free treatments. So I got a life coach, I got this amazing EFT teacher, all sorts of things. And my life coach, Eve, who is still my friend today, now helping my daughter, life coaching her, she sort of helped me set up a plan to go back to school part-time, and I sort of had to battle with my head a bit, come back full-time. So she helped me negotiate that, and I said, what do you want to do with your life? I want to do novels. And one thing she said to me was, go and find your tribe. So I Googled, and it's like, yeah, Googled tribe comics. And I found, this was amazing. I found LD Comics, Work in Progress.
I thought Nicola and Rachael supported you.
No.
That's my narrative.
Yeah, no, it was Eve who said that I was at Ladies Comics, Work in Progress, and I used to meet up with them on the South Bank, Joe Stone, it was before Joe Stone, and I worked on Shadows. So Shadows I was working while I was doing chemotherapy, and I'm still working on it now.
This I
10 years
asked you
later.
to look for because it's the first image you showed. And
Yeah.
I still remember it. This was like 2000.
Yeah, so I emailed Nicola and Sarah and said I'd like to come, can I come? And I showed them my work, and they were like, oh, why don't you present? So I went to presenting, and I showed them a few images of my old stuff, and I kind of felt like it felt a bit sort of cold and a bit unfriendly. And then I showed some of the new stuff, which were these paintings of this story I was working on about this lonely old witch. And it felt like everybody was
That's like a whoa.
a bit more interested, and it was like, oh, okay, that feels good. So this was a few images I've been working on for a kid's book called The Wolf Who Lost His Hat, and I've worked on it for 8 years while I was teaching. So I'd do it at the weekend, and that never kind of went anywhere either. Well, I didn't show anybody. It was just all, it was like percolating creativity, I think. But yeah, it was sort of, I think it's all sort of linked to the story I'm working on now, so I'm kind of meandering around a little bit. But I don't know if there's any, yeah, so that's more images from shadows. It still hasn't decided if it's a graphic novel or if it's a novel. It might be an illustrator. I think it's going to be an illustrated YA novel. I think about 40,000 words. And then now I'm going back to the beginning or something. I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, so there's quite a lot of that. I think some projects are funny. They're quick. You know what you're doing. It's really clear. She's a young witch, she lives alone, she steals shadows from people or from creatures, and then she falls in love with someone, so it's kind of linking to my hunter experience, and he leaves and she steals his shadow so she can play with the shadow. And then he gets dragged into the underworld. That's the story. But yeah, so I was thinking, right, I'm going to do a graphic novel. Am I going to work on shadows or am I going to work on the inflatable woman? And for some reason I sort of thought, I slightly had my business head on. I thought, I think somehow it's like a calling card. I think it will be a good way back in. I don't know anybody in comics anymore. And Nick, by chance, contacted me. So Nick had said she's worked Deadline. He carried on being a cartoonist, moved to America. We lost contact a bit, and then he contacted me to see what I was doing. And then he introduced me to Wallace. And then I was already going to LDC, so then I took Wallace, who also now works for LDC. But yeah, so this is the Inflatable Woman, and the main character was Iris, was based on me. That's her lying in the bed. But she's a zookeeper, she wasn't a teacher, and they were like talking penguins, and this is Death sitting on her chest and kind of follows her around. There's a tall guy, looks like a skeleton. The little woman's always carrying this little baby, and that was while I was having lots of treatments and getting sort of hyper. I thought I was being followed by this couple. And then I ran into the tube to get away from them. And when I got on the tube, I turned around and they were there again, sort of staring at me. So I waited till I got to Vauxhall, and then I leapt out of the train to hide from them. They weren't following me at all, they were just completely innocent couple. I was just delusional. So this is Iris internet dating, and then this is her on a date with Sailor Boy. So Sailor Boy was his tag name on internet dating. I can't remember what she was called now.
Ballet girl.
She was ballet girl. So she pretended that she was an international ballet dancer who was travelling the world, and he pretended, giving it away now, he pretended that he was a sailor, and he wasn't really, he was a businessman. Totally giving it away. But yeah, I blogged it online. There's lots of poetry in it by Machado and different people. Lots of talking penguins, dressing up in nuns' habits for some reason. And because I didn't have any contacts, I didn't know how to go about it, and I was thinking graphic novels are really big, how do you do that? I decided that I would blog each episode, and I would announce it to a small following that I was posting it once a month on the first day of every month, and I did that for 11 chapters, 11 months before I got a publisher. But after 4 months I put it together and made a little zine, and I made 4 of them using my school's resources, and I sent those to different publishers, Myriad, Johnson Cave, Self-Made Hero, they haven't got back to me, and somewhere else. Yeah, it got published by Bloomsbury, but through coming to LDC and showing my work, I showed the Inflatable Woman twice, I think, at LDC. I sort of made contacts, and it was by Nicola, who introduced me to her agent, and it was Kirsty who took my work to Bloomsbury. And I think certainly before then, I suddenly realised I was kind of networking by going to LDC.
Yeah.
And it's
that's
like, actually, networking is okay. It's not.
Yeah, because we're of that
nasty,
generation that thinks it's part of evil capitalism.
Yeah, and actually, it's
advertising
people,
or something, but it's just making friends.
yeah, people are being, you can't help but be artistic and go, oh, wouldn't that person be really good for that? You know, and everybody wants not to be that, but actually actually, it's a nice thing. It's people supporting each other.
And knowledge sharing
helping each other.
and generosity. I think those are important qualities. So
And actually, what's been really
I
nice.
introduced you to my agent, and then she probably sacked me.
But she
She
got
sacked
me
you.
as well, so that was okay.
I'll not say.
Exactly.
But I think it's
But
that.
she took Nick. So yeah.
Did she? Yeah, on the back
Nick,
one. So
there you
she's
go.
working the same principle. But it's fine, because it promotes the whole, it's places like the Zine fairs and it was Sarah Baker came. But also it was when Sarah and I were both writing up our PhDs for a year, so we took a sabbatical, which is when you and Wallace took the reins of the month in
But
London.
in real life,
In real life, in Bosch Comics.
Yeah, well, yeah, kind of all over the place actually, wasn't it? I mean, it was really nice. Like we were in that tea house in Vauxhall.
Oh yeah, you stayed on.
pubs.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit stressful finding places that let you do it for free or cheaply.
Yeah.
And then you were to pay some time back
Yeah.
as well. So yeah, going online is
Oh yeah, okay, then.
easier.
What I want to ask you, how was the experience of your second graphic novel? So Inflatable Woman was your first one, informed by LDC in your then established position within the community. So you published Inflatable Woman, and now you have you're part of LDC, so how did that shape your process for your second graphic novel?
Being LDC.
And your role in the community, like how did it help, or how did it, like going about getting a publisher, that kind of thing?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I still had Kirsty.
Yeah.
So Kirsty was the one who, Kirsty sent it to a few publishers and she sent it to some. I think actually what did help, I think you and I, you helped me with no, that was a different one. I was going to say the Arts Council grant, but that actually was Gemma Salzer at the Arts Council. I think Self-Made Hero got interested when I got my Arts Council grant. So I think that helped. But I presented Wolf at LDC.
Go on, tell them about it.
Oh, okay. So Wolf is, so I thought, when I decided I wanted to do graphic novels, I thought I'm going to do 3 graphic novels, so it's going to be The Inflatable Woman. It was going to be a story about my father who died when I was 6 in some way, but I didn't know how to go about it. And the illustrations I showed earlier of The Wolf Who Lost His Hat, which was a children's book I did that never went anywhere, and I realised after doing 20 paintings, I hadn't really planned it properly, and the characters didn't have any character. They were really quite dull, and the story was quite dull. I like the paintings, but the story was dull. And I thought, hey, why don't I put aspects of The Wolf Who Lost His Hat with this story about losing my father. I kind of had a feeling I didn't want it to just be me telling the real story, and I don't know why. I don't know if that's emotional resistance. So I brought Wolf together with the story of losing my dad, and the wolf becomes this sort of warning sign that something's about to go wrong. So that a little boy, who's me, so I changed the gender, goes out with his dad. He wanders off and he comes into this glade. There's a huge tree stump and his wolf is standing on it. And it's like a really strong sort of mythical type moment. And from that moment everything changes, and soon after the father dies suddenly in a freak accident. And they move to a new house where there's a strange neighbour called the Wolfman. And it's through this, the little boy pursuing the Wolfman and hoping he's got magical powers that will help him go back in time and rescue his dad before his father dies. So it's sort of tapping into those feelings that little kids have about, somehow things could change, or someone has some power over it. This is one of the kids, Icky, who's one of my favourite characters in the book, who's in love, kind of like a bromance with Erin. And it's going, we're writing on stuff like, Northern Soul, I come from Blackpool, so just, memories of stuff like that. This is Icky doing Northern Soul. I would like to say as well that thinking about one of the powerful things about being part of the community and it being about supporting other people as well. I mean, yeah, it's good for your own position as well, isn't it? Keeps your name alive as well, you know, when you're in between books take ages. But also what's really nice is it's a really nice counterbalance to when we're trying to get something published or we're working on our own projects. It's really sort of, it's creative, it's also quite ego-led, isn't it? You know, nobody's buying my book, oh my ego hurts, kind of thing. Why are they doing so well? What about me? You know, it's got a real sort of negative side.
We don't really admit this.
No, but what I'm thinking,
we're really kind.
the being in the community and being about other people is such a nice counterbalance to that kind of reminder of actually it's a very capitalist construct, that sort of competition, and particularly with it being that sort of female thing as well, is it's like, well actually people can just support each other and then everybody kind of succeeds. And isn't that great? That's really nice, and it leaves you with a really nice feeling, you know, to be helped and to help them, and to get away from that kind of rat race idea.
I don't think we can change capitalism, but definitely within it, but within that you can shape small communities. And actually I forgot one of the initial reasons for me and Sarah setting up was to combat the isolation when you're working, anyone here who's a creator or writer or academic, lots of time alone with yourself, and it's so nice to kind of get some, just chat, comments or chat. And actually now, it's so lovely to have an hour and a half a month of just the most amazing talkers, and we always aim to have people better than us. So that makes it good. So you kind of get lots of different approaches. But I was thinking more about your transfer. So interestingly, all 5 of us committee members have experience in our past, not Wallace, of teaching. So TEFL teacher, school teacher, Lou is a school teacher, Emma Burley is a school teacher. Well, not just school, head of department. But I think so you chucked in, can I tell that story? So I had a drink with Wallace and Rachel was saying the school is so shit, the politics are awful. I just have to work for 4 more years and then I can draw my pension. And I was like biting my lip saying, yeah, you should do that. Like, I don't want to be blamed for her kind of homelessness and all this. So, but thinking in my head, chuck it in now, chuck it in now. And then the next day you emailed her, resigned. And you haven't looked back, but quite a lot of the way you make money now through comics is actually teaching. Likewise. I mean, that's an interesting thing, because it's like you've quit teaching and now you're teaching, but it's so different. I've asked you this before.
Yeah, I mean, I felt unable to do because I got the Arts Council grant and got the book to be on words and they pay well, so that made me feel like I could do it. But yeah, then I've been since teaching at the House of Illustration, the Art Academy, and now City Lit, and it's just more manageable hours.
But also teaching something new.
I love it. I really love teaching it. I love sort of graphic novels, kids' books, that kind of thing. And it's, you know, without all the other stuff, the other politics and constant assessment and observations and all those things. Yeah, so, but the third graphic novel I'm working on now is The Patsy Papers. And it's taken me ages. I don't know if I mentioned before. The Inflatable Woman took 6 weeks planning. This feels like it's been going on for years on and on. But yeah, so I am now finally, I think I've plotted it. I've written about a third of it. But the other ones I kind of wrote them monthly.
I forgot to say, I was in that, I forgot to add, and I was in that email group of your first read. I really loved it. It would drop into my email and I get this lovely chapter of Inflatable Woman. I didn't even know you that well, and you never asked if I could be in your... Oh, did So I was a little bit, but it was so lovely. It was really, I feel now really honoured to have been part of that small group. And as we continue that, sorry, go on, carry on about.
That's fine. Yeah, so yes, my third graphic novel is, based on my experiences teaching in secondary school, which rapidly went downhill after a poor Ofsted and the appointment of a new head. So the school, the bit when I decided to leave, something awful was happening every week. I don't know if you're spirited of working in school. Some schools are just brilliant. I mean, there's a school, Addy and Stanhope, not that far from here, and it's great. I've been working with them with a comic project with the kids. But it was just, it went from having really good behaviour to kids climbing up the walls, literally kicking the doors in, and swearing, and it was just, and consistency was out the window. She got rid of all heads of department. She got rid of all the heads of house. It was just like, now there was one. It was just people were not able to cope. And within 2 years, the school closed down completely. So anyway, that's what I'm basing my novel on. And sort of, trying not to be, I don't know, a friend said to me, why are you doing the book though? Are you just trying to be bitchy about it?
Time.
And I was like, I thought I do want to tell the story of how tough it can be working in schools, and how important it is that everybody's working together. And I think when I was working in a good school, I just kind of thought, I've learned to be a good teacher, I'm a good teacher. And it wasn't until things started falling apart that I thought, actually, unless everybody's working together, point of view of the talk, things fall apart. And if you don't have a head of house or head of department or a head teacher isn't cancelling other people's detentions because she thinks you're doing it wrong, and you don't have management support you if a child is being difficult, or you don't have an SEN department to support kids with special needs, all the whole thing just sort of collapses. So I ended up I thought, no, I'm not just trying to be bitchy to the head, I'm actually trying to tell that story.
Great. And one last point about, I said I'd come back to this. So Sarah Lightman, so again it links to us all of us doing teaching or running workshops or mentoring, so we're all using those skills, all of us on the team, but also Sarah Lightman is running a course at the Royal Drawing School, and from her first term she created this bunch of students who then went off under their own, like Sarah went, off you go and produce an anthology, and on our table, come and look, because then she did it the same, so it's quite a low maintenance way of teaching. Off you go and edit an anthology. And they've done these, so there's now 2 fantastic anthologies, and this one is in that group is our this year's winner, Michelle Freeman of our LDC, and quite a lot of the team. So it's this way that it's expanding us through our team and our teacher, giving out, and then people coming together, just doing it. Like, don't wait for a publisher, don't wait for an editor, do it. And the more, the other thing that you mentioned is, as soon as, there's been a point, there's like, I've got this bestseller, obviously graphic memoir, bestseller, and then people say to me, but I'm not known for that. I'm actually become known for LDC. So so I know when a few years ago, who regularly attended, I asked her for about the 4th time, "What's your name? How come you're at our meetings? What's your connection?" She says, "You ask me that every single month." I went, "All right then. Who am I?" "Well, you're the woman who organises this." "No, I'm not. I'm not." But I just think it's much easier to become known for something that's bigger than you, and then people can find what you do. So I think that's quite important. So again, you're part of an anthology that becomes known, and it's about platforming voices and sharing that. I think we might open it up for some round of applause.
Stories as teachers as opposed to, how other people would tell stories.
Yeah, definitely.
Really great question. And actually, we were just talking to Margot on the table. Anyway, she's done. Emily Howard Booth runs amazing courses, and Sarah Lightman started both at the Royal Drawing School. And she said she did both courses, and Emily's really taught her about structure and how to do that. but she said when she did Sarah's course, Sarah was really down on her about shaping her own style. So a much freer approach. So I think everyone, and what's your style? So what I know of your teaching is, again, it's about shaping the characters, shaping the plot. So everyone has their strengths and input. What would you say?
Yeah, just you're exactly right. I mean, I think when you're teaching, it's the best way of teaching yourself as well.
Yeah,
And I've been teaching a writing course recently at the City Lit. It's quite a short, condensed course, so everything's sort of really sort of honed down. And then I suddenly thought, I don't think I'm doing this. I'm telling them to look at their characters' flaws, and could you make the obstacles bigger, and all those sort of classic things. I think I just need to look at my character again. And
really? Okay.
That's made it a lot better. It's like, so yeah, easy to forget things, but I think it's really useful to teach people, to teach yourself.
Was there another? Yeah.
It's not a fully formed question, but it was just going back to something.
So I don't know, but I think you do need to make money, and it's a privileged position if you're able to have some form of income that gives you time. But it's just about how much do you need to live on, and being really ruthless with yourself is like, do you need to go out for a meal every week? For 6 months perhaps you tighten your belt and take a risk. But Wallace Eaves she didn't have a grant. She had quite a well-paid kind of executive job working for a charity. But she'd been trained at the Royal College, and she's an amazing artist. So she just overnight. No, not overnight. I'll tell you what she did. Has anyone heard of The Artist's Way?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you done that, or kind of read it? If you haven't, it's worth looking at. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, and after I'm a late comer to it. You knew it. Julia Cameron, is it?
Yeah.
And basically, if you've heard of this idea of morning pages, that's from there. So it's like this. Her basic take home is every day you do this stream of consciousness writing to open up your thing, not for anyone to read, and then. People so when I was like, oh, have you heard of this? And everyone's going, yeah, I completely transformed my life, completely. And so Wallace was that, as a result of that, she quit her job. I think she had some savings though, maybe 7,000.
She saved 7,000, but she also gave up her flat, and she
Marriage as well? She walked away from marriage? All that. Who needs that clutter, eh?
She couch served for about 6 or 7 months.
Yes, so
yeah, she was looking at it going, I can't afford to give up this job and pay my rent, so she went, okay, I'll
And was that with a sort of project in mind, or was that to sort
yeah,
of
I
find
think
out what
she was
the project?
working on a graphic novel.
And it was shortlisted for the Myriad Edition's first graphic novel prize. It was really good, but and that's an interesting story, because that was like 10, nearly 10 years ago, and since then she got work doing. She's worked in prison. She's now worked on a publication working with people with head injuries, so charity work. She's done all sorts, and working with LDC as well for that.
Yeah, teaching, mentoring.
Yeah, I mean, she lives quite frugally. It's quite tight sometimes, but it's better. And
she's had arts council funding as well.
yeah, and she got a grant. So, but actually, she looks back on that work that she did with this passion and emotion, and actually thinks she's relieved it wasn't published.
Did she work on it whilst crouched?
Yeah, that was all. Yeah, she came out with this zeal of emotional outbursts.
So that sort of scratches off the list. Need big, fully equipped studio.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That. Yeah, I know exactly. All the stuff. Like, what do you need? Till you don't need any of that. Yeah, exactly. She's a real lesson to us, actually.
If I could sort of greedily ask a follow-up question.
Yes, please.
So I suppose it also sounded a bit like at various times you had sort of like with the cancer, that strange. It felt like there was something like a moment, even though you were going through something really hard. It sounded like it gave you the sort of almost space for all of your thoughts to kind of come through. So did you not have a project on the go? Because I think my
did
next
have,
question.
because I'd been working on that kids book, The Wolf Who Lost His Hat, and then I sort of think for some reason I just dropped it during the cancer treatment.
Yeah.
And I think what it did do, I think I was stuck in a sort of internal narrative of, well, there's nothing I can do about it. I want to leave teaching, I want to do my own work, there's nothing I can do about it. And I would add up my figures and go, this doesn't work. I've just got to stay here. And I didn't. It's like I had my head against the wall. I didn't seem to be able to see. And I did, it was actually reaching out, like my mum gave me, so I was supported. My mum gave me some money to help me reduce my mortgage so that I could go part-time. So, I did have that privilege.
But you can still find excuses.
Yeah, it wouldn't have occurred to me to ask her.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I've got to make a change. Okay, that might have been a suggestion that Eve made. So that was good as well as having a perspective from somebody else who can go, look, maybe there's something we're not looking at here, maybe there's something that is possible.
One of the things that's happened more and more, so from the very first LDC prize, there were 6 shortlists, and they all, like I think 4 of that group, have been meeting every couple of months online to show and tell their work, and it's that critical, it's that support. The network, and it's happened with our other prizes, some of the shortlists get together, and it's happening with, like I said, Sarah's group. It's this coming together, and it creates accountability. So that's what you need. So you can come together and say, oh, I think I should be going back to teaching, and hopefully your friends will go, really? Really? Do you really need to? So this sort of discussing it with people who will understand, and will understand that your dream is, if it is your dream, you've got a good idea, then do it. But it's easy, I appreciate it's easy to say because, we have to eat, we have to find some form of, but I mean, I've just had it with our daughter who's an artist, who's going through this thing, and I said, right, well what you want to do is, probably you should retrain to be a dentist, because that is a license to print money. Or law, have you thought law? Doctor. So she's been training fine art for 5 years, and that's my advice. and then John, her dad, goes, why don't you just go part-time and spend less money on coffees and vegan waffles or whatever she eats. And it's like, oh yeah! And then you've got that slight panic that you can just pay your rent, but you've got to do this thing. It's accountability, and you create a club. So, I don't know, I think there's ways, isn't there? Any other questions? Are we out of time?
When is the next LDC event?
Well, it's the 26th of September at the Cartoon Museum. 26th is our festival.
Okay, sorry.
But is there
12th is
any
our
talks
online.
before that?
12th is our online one,
Okay.
yeah. And hopefully next year for residencies.
Well, everyone, there are tables inside.
Oh yeah, come and chat
Please
to us.
come to the table and you can get some more information about the organization and find them and take a look at the
And
yeah.
particularly, Kirsty's here soaking up this for her MA dissertational project, and also Josh here is going to be hosting our table at the Illustration Fair in King's Cross on the 16th of July. So he's very kindly stepped forward to be our rep then. All right, thanks everybody.